Threat Hunting Bootcamp. It's starting here Monday, January 16, 9 a.m. Pacific, and it's gonna complete on January 19, 5 p.m. Pacific. Now, this bootcamp is for entry-level candidates, for those who are getting to learn about threat hunting. Along with the technical skills you will get in these 4 days, we're also gonna work on your personal branding. We're gonna share some resume tips and tricks for entry-level positions. And finally, we're gonna work on your LinkedIn and Twitter, especially LinkedIn profiles, so that you get noticed by hiring manager. We will make sure that we help you with the cost-effective, if not free, tips and tricks to really improve your resume, which in these worlds called LinkedIn. So, without further ado, let's look at Virtue Testing Foundation Threat Hunting Bootcamp. So for those candidates who were accepted in this bootcamp, you must have received a Slack invitation of VTF Bootcamp Workspace. Now, it's invite only, which means you can just go and submit a request to join. And for those who were joined, you must have received access to this workspace where you get to communicate with other 3,500 candidates who are part of this bootcamp. Along with this bootcamp, you will get information about videos, Attack IQ Academy courses, and access to all those resources. We want you to be the best threat hunter here at Virtue Testing Foundation. After January 19, we will review your work of those 4 days, and we will issue you a certificate of completion, which you get to actually go ahead and show off on your LinkedIn or Twitter and or on your resume as well. With that, let's talk about threat hunting. Threat hunting is a critical practice in today's digital landscape, and it is essential that organizations take it seriously. The overall practice of threat hunting is continuous, with individual missions called hunts. These hunts can last from a few hours to several days, depending on the objectives of the particular hunt. I went ahead and asked ChatGPT AI, what is threat hunting? And response has key elements of threat hunting, such as it has to be proactive. Threat hunting is not incident handling. Once an incident have occurred, you don't start threat hunting. As we read the description of threat hunting generated by ChatGPT AI, we also see the words like potential, which means we won't know definitive threats until we find them. And here's the most interesting and important mission of a threat hunter: hunt and expose those threats as early as possible. Which means if hitting ransomware is the final goal and stage of an adversary, you as a hunter will expose the threat early on, such as when an attacker is gaining foothold in the network or moving laterally or escalating privileges. Once ransomware is hit, that's the last stage. Adversary have won already at that point. You go in cleanup mode, containment mode, which is part of incident handling. To make sure we understand threat hunting, it is proactive and incident handling is reactive. It's important to note that a hunt should have one or more objectives. These objectives should be narrowly focused, but not too broad, or the hunt might not even really get completed. For example, a hunt with an objective to identify all the vulnerable systems within an organization would be too broad, and it would be difficult to complete. On the other hand, a hunt with an objective to identify a specific vulnerability on a particular system would be narrowly focused and achievable. The process of threat hunting is not just about finding the threats, but it's also about understanding the context and scope of the threat and potential impact on the organization. It's about being proactive and taking control of your own security. At the end, threat hunting is a continuous practice that requires a focused approach. Organizations should be clear about their objectives and take proactive approach to identifying and mitigating potential threats. Remember, the key to successful threat hunting is to keep the objectives focused and achievable. As we all know, the world of technology is constantly evolving, and with it, so are the methods and motives of cybercriminals. They're always on the lookout for new ways to steal sensitive information and make a profit. The famous criminal who once said, "Because that's where the money is," could easily have been referring to the digital world as well. In today's digital age, it is no longer enough to simply wait for evidence of intrusions. We make proactive measures to protect ourselves from potential threats. This is where threat hunting comes in. Threat hunting is a hot topic in the security industry, and for a good reason. It is all about proactively searching for would-be intruders and signs of potential future intrusions. It is about taking control of our own security and not relying on passive measures alone. Threat hunting is not a new concept, but it has become increasingly important in today's digital landscape. With the increasing sophistication of cyber criminals, we must also increase our own sophistication in protecting ourselves. By proactively searching for threats, we can stay one step ahead of the bad actors and keep our sensitive information safe. Let us remember that just as the famous criminal knew where the money was, so too do cyber criminals know where the valuable information is. It is important, and it is up to us to take control of our own security and proactively hunt for potential threats. Threat hunting is a critical aspect of modern cybersecurity, and it requires a comprehensive approach to identifying and mitigating potential threats. Threat hunters generally concentrate their attention on endpoints and networks. Tools look like EDR, NDR, email security, identity, and access management, which provide detailed forensic data. Depending on the hunt's objective, the threat hunter may try to triangulate attack evidence using additional tools that can corroborate or provide incremental signs of compromise, such as intrusion detection system, IDS, prevention system, IPS, web proxy filter, or network firewall. However, threat hunting is not only about detecting malware, but also about identifying abnormal usage of legitimate tools and accounts. For example, the use of legitimate tools like PowerShell or Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit, EMET, can be used in malicious ways, and it's important to detect and prevent such activities by threat hunters. By continuously monitoring and analyzing network traffic, threat hunters can identify and block malicious activities before they cause damage to the organization. When you are a threat hunter, your objectives can vary between really broadly categorized, where either you are chasing a specific threat or a vulnerability or a high value target, we call it HVT, or you might be even tracking an APT specific to your industry and you are hunting an APT in your environment. Threat hunting is a continuous process that requires a comprehensive approach, the use of the right tools, and the ability to identify and prevent abnormal usage of legitimate tools and accounts. By proactively hunting for potential threats, organizations can take control of their own security and protect themselves from cyber attacks. Adversaries are always finding new ways to penetrate networks and steal sensitive information, and often they stay in the network undetected for a long time. So, companies are hiring threat hunters to detect anomalies which are going unnoticed by security tools. There is a complete shift in a mindset from reactive to proactive cybersecurity. Also, assuming breach really strengthens the concept of threat hunting. Threat hunters assume that a breach has occurred and work to identify and mitigate potential threats. They use a variety of tools and techniques to search for signs of malicious activity on the endpoints or networks. They focus on identifying and understanding the scope and context of the threats, and take a proactive approach to identifying and mitigating potential threats. By assuming a breach has occurred, threat hunters are able to take a more comprehensive approach to identifying and mitigating potential threats and can take action to minimize the damage caused by cyber attacks. The truth is, no matter how much we invest in security measures, no organization can be completely immune to cyber attacks. Firewalls, intrusion detection systems, IPS, and endpoint protection are all important tools, but they're not foolproof. Adversaries are becoming increasingly sophisticated and are always finding new ways to bypass security measures. However, this does not mean we should give up protecting ourselves from cyber attacks. Instead, we should understand that prevention is not the only answer. We must adopt a proactive approach to security and focus on early detection and rapid response. This means continuously monitoring and analyzing network traffic, identifying and blocking malicious activities before they cause damage to the organization. In addition, it is important to have an incident response plan in place and to have a team trained in incident management to respond to those attacks as soon as they are detected. This will help to minimize the cause or damage caused by cyber attacks and get the organization back to normal operations as soon as possible. 100% prevention is not possible, but threat hunting gives us a fighting chance. Instead, we must adopt a proactive approach to security. Focus on early detection and rapid response, and have an incident plan in place. By staying vigilant and taking a comprehensive approach, we can protect ourselves and minimize the damage caused by cyber attacks. There's a great paper, and there's a link here from SANS, which talks about threat hunting, and the title is "This is the Way." Threat hunting, this is the way. I really recommend all of our threat hunters to read and go through this paper really carefully and really understand and learn the methods, the hows, the whys, the whats of threat hunting. So once again, the link is right here in the slide, and I really recommend all of our threat hunters to go in and read this paper. Creating a hypothesis in threat hunting is an important step in the process of identifying and mitigating potential threats. A hypothesis is a proposed explanation of or for a phenomenon that is testable through observation and experimentation. Now that's the formal and fancy explanation or definition. In the context of threat hunting, a hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a potential threat that is testable through analysis of data and network traffic. So anything that you're seeing from the log management, anything you're seeing from your firewall, anything you're seeing from the endpoint detection, we can actually go ahead and test it. Having a clear hypothesis helps threat hunters to focus their efforts and to identify relevant data and information. It also allows them to effectively analyze and intercept the data they collect, which leads to a more efficient and effective threat hunting process. Forming a hypothesis allows hunters to prioritize their efforts on potential threats that have the highest potential impact on the organization. So again, we talked about how value target, HVTs, and to make decisions on how to respond to the identified threats. By having a clear hypothesis, hunters can make data-driven decisions and take action to minimize the damage caused by those cyber attacks and cyber criminals. Once again, creating a hypothesis in threat hunting is a critical step because we need to identify and mitigate potential threats. It helps hunters to focus their efforts, analyze and intercept data, and we can really prioritize our operations when it comes to threat hunting. This is really a proactive approach, but having some sort of framework and backbone in threat hunting is really important. Well, one might ask, how do you create a hypothesis for threat hunting? As a threat hunter, it is our duty to proactively identify and mitigate potential security threats to our organization. But in order to do so effectively, it is essential that we have a deep understanding of our critical assets, the crown jewels, and the security controls in place to protect them. It is not enough to simply have a general understanding of our assets and controls. We must be intimately familiar with the nuances and intricacies of both, as this knowledge is critical to identifying and addressing potential vulnerabilities. During a threat hunting, we'll be looking at a needle in a haystack of needles put on a white sand. If we don't know our organization's critical assets or even network topology, how the data or network or applications and connections are supposed to flow, we won't be effective in our hunting. Again, the first rule of hunting is know your surroundings. It is important that we are not only familiar with, but actively working with penetration testing and red team operations. These techniques allow us to simulate real-world attacks and test the effectiveness of our security measures. But constantly testing and improving our defenses, we can stay ahead of the ever-evolving threat landscapes. A lot of times, threat hunters have confused themselves as penetration testers or even red teamers and consequently caused harm to an organization's network. I'll talk more about this in the next section. So I challenge each and every one of us to take a look or closer look at our understanding of our critical assets and security controls. Let us strive to be the best threat hunters we can be and work together to keep our organization safe from harm. As we all know, cybersecurity is not constant battle, and it is imperative that we stay one step ahead of potential threats. One way to do this is through threat hunting. Threat hunting is a non-invasive approach to identifying potential vulnerabilities within an organization. It is really a way of testing controls. It is really a way of finding those intrusions when the security controls are being ineffective. It involves observing potentially and patiently and connecting the dots when anomalies surface, which may have escaped the security controls already in place, by the way. This approach is distinct from penetration testing or red team operations, which are actively trying to break the security controls in place. While both threat hunting and penetration testing or red teaming are aimed at helping an organization bolster its security posture, they are different in execution. However, I have seen threat hunters working very closely with the red teamers or penetration testers time and time again during the reconnaissance phase. This is when both teams can benefit from each other's work product. Discovering actively or passively about the organization's asset or security controls is the first step for threat hunters and or red teamers. By understanding the organization's critical assets and the security controls in place, the team can identify potential vulnerabilities and take steps to mitigate them. So, threat hunting and penetration testing or red teaming are essential components in assuring the security of an organization. The two approaches may differ in execution, but when used together, they can provide a comprehensive view of organization's security posture and help us stay ahead of the potential threats. A common question that's been asked by us is, what is threat hunting? And there are so many definitions, there are so many abbreviations out there. Honestly, you need to really ask yourself what it means to you. Threat hunting is the process of proactively identifying and mitigating potential security threats within an organization. It does require a deep understanding of the organization's critical assets and security controls, as we just discussed in previous slides. To be effective at threat hunting, one must know their battlefield. One must know where they are actually going to hunt and understand the nuances of systems, how they are connected, the network connections, and honestly, what we are protecting. It's also crucial to understand the different types of attackers, whether they are humans or machines, and motivations behind the attacks. In order for us to really understand and become a good threat hunter, we need to know the motivations one should be coming after our crown jewels and how to evade those security controls. By thinking like an attacker, threat hunters can anticipate potential vulnerabilities and steps to mitigate them. At the end of the day, that is our goal, that is our mission. For attackers to really come empty-handed when they're trying to attack us, because our threat hunters, red teamers, penetration testers, and defenders work together to identify the vulnerabilities or gaps in security controls and patch them together. Again, this is where you can work with penetration testers or red teamers to bounce off ideas and about the motivation of an attacker Why would someone want to attack your organization? What is critical at your organization? What is really important at your organization that one wants to put their hands on? Well, as we said at the beginning of this session, this bootcamp is for entry-level folks, people who are either in a formal education or going through some sort of college, university, or just graduated and starting their professional and getting into the cybersecurity industry. And a lot of time we also get this question that there's not a whole lot of budget for students that they can afford to go and try out hands-on when it comes to fancy and expensive tools. Well, good news, guys. You don't need expensive tools to be a good hunter. What you need is a good eye, analytic skills, and patience. That's the most important. But I'll talk about some tools here as well. As we all know, cybersecurity is a constant battle, and it is crucial that we stay one step ahead of potential threats. One way to do is by utilizing the various tools available to us. As a threat hunter, it is essential that we have a wide range of tools at our disposal. These tools have different applications and can be used in combination of providing a comprehensive defense against cyber attacks without spending a lot of money. By utilizing some of these tools available, you can use your own discretion to decide if you would like to upgrade to a paid commercial plan. So you can start with a free one and learn the skills. And if something is beneficial to you or maybe your employer, that you can decide to go with the commercial plan. Threat hunting is a really conscious battle between IT security personnel and attackers. So you can start with tools or solutions, but it's important to be prepared with the solutions that are effective for you and your organization. So try not to get sucked into that constant battle of finding new tools and blinky lights and those fancy boxes. The key is to understand the tools available, their application, and how they can be used in combination to gather a comprehensive defense against cyber attacks. It is also important to stay informed about new tools and solutions that are coming to the market to ensure that you are up to date with the latest technology. As threat hunters, it is crucial that we have a wide range of tools at our disposal. So by utilizing the various tools available, we can stay ahead of potential threats and keep our organization safe from harm. So stay informed, be vigilant, and win this battle against cyber attacks. So enough with the talk. We talked about threat hunting, what, why, and how. We talked about why one should want to be a threat hunter and the motivations, and some checklist about that you need to keep an eye out for your critical assets and security controls around it to really be effective threat hunter. Now, let's talk about some tactical plans. So we'll start with MITRE ATT&CK framework, and as we start or evolve our journey into threat hunting, we really need to review and learn about MITRE ATT&CK framework. Along with that, you're going to learn how to install Atomic Red Team, and you will learn more about this tomorrow, and we will post things in Slack as well. But this is the first thing you're going to do. You're going to install Atomic Red Team framework, and this is how we're going to learn how to test those techniques against our security controls. And again, this is non-intrusive. This is not going to break anything. It's just going to tell us that if the security controls are in place or they are not. There are ways to clean up as well. We do recommend using a virtual machines and not your corporate network. So especially for those who are just starting or students, you're not going to have an access to corporate network. So that'll be perfect opportunity for you to learn how to install Atomic Red Team and also how to actually test your security controls. And this might seem pretty straightforward when you're running the test, but the the idea is that when you have access to corporate network and they do have security controls, how do you test those security controls? How do you go about actually looking at the different tactics run by different APT groups and really identify if your security controls are valid or if they can be evaded? Then we're going to look at MITRE Defend as well, and how to actually leverage Defend along with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and finally the Navigator. This is one of my best actually ways to really look at the heat map and understand where my gaps are. This helps security leaders to understand where they need to go and invest when it comes to security programs. So once again, the combination between MITRE ATT&CK framework, MITRE Defend, and MITRE Navigator. This gives you a complete holistic picture of how to become a threat hunter. Again, you're not going to be expert into all of these platforms overnight, but this gives you a starting point that you can continue. With that, I thank you everyone for watching this session. Once again, this is VTF Threat Hunting Bootcamp in January. We'll see you all on Slack.